So I wanted, how about if we start with the idea of space-time, okay? And how
Okay.
the basic concept that there's no such thing as time, everything's sort of happening all at once. And, in many ways, this helps us to understand how things like precognition and remote viewing are possible, because we can see things that are happening in other places. And in some sense, everything's already happened, so that we can see some things in the future. And this is where it gets tricky, and this is where you come in. I know this is your sweet spot. And so can we talk a little bit about how we reconcile that everythingness that everything at onceness with potentiality and free will and alternate realities, perhaps, and how that all sort of fits together?
Okay. If I want to simplify things, I often bring up an analogy. So let me think analogy for a moment.
Yeah, take your time.
We believe in a physical universe because that's what we've been told. You're a physical being. You're in a physical universe. Your universe at the moment under that construct is that beautiful room that you're in. You've got the bench behind you with some ornaments. You've got a color scheme. You've got a nice lamp there and a drum. So your physical landscape is for Kim to be able to move around that room. You can go and you can turn the lamp on and off. You can wait 3 minutes and then turn the lamp on and off. So there's a time aspect in that as well. You can go over there and you can move some things around on the sideboard. That's what we've been told that it is. But time and space is only a human construct for learning. And we know that when people go out of body, they go between lives, they go into reincarnation. Whenever they do any of that, we know that the time and space is malleable. Now, if we were told that we live in a landscape that is timeless and spaceless, and that we can go anywhere and we can use things like non-locality and all of that sort of stuff, quantum entanglement, when instantaneous contact is made across, galaxies from one place to another, that changes everything. Now, we are metaphysical beings in a multiverse. So once we know that is our construct, we can start to use it. So no longer are we bound by time and space if we choose not to be. We simply move into that new definition of the analogy, and then the universe opens to us.
Beautiful. That, and I couldn't agree more. And that is such a beautiful way of talking about it. And I think we're sort of living in this sort of illusion, or, what are your thoughts on the simulation? Do you think it's like a simulation, right? Because you talk about that, like this whole thing that's all made of light, built of those quantum holographic pixels, right? Do you feel like it is kind of a simulation that we're living in?
Well, I love that person who first said that The Matrix was a documentary and not a work of fiction. That first movie. I'm not so enrolled in the ones that came after, but the first one was brilliant.
It was.
Even if I look back at my earlier work with Michael Newton and the Life Between Lives work, we incarnate, we plan a life, we come down here and we incarnate to learn lessons, to make repair, to soul contracts, to learn the gambit of human emotions and experiences. That's a simulation.
Right.
So reincarnation is just the next piece of the simulation that we sign up for and that we move into. So the whole thing it has to be a simulation. Now, it feels very real. I mean, I can stub my toe on a brick outside and it hurts. I can have eggs for breakfast and they taste good. So this is a very, very well constructed simulation, but a simulation, absolutely. And I think that we are the creators of that simulation in a multiple mind way, in a collective consciousness way, that we have this reality that we set up in order to help us learn, grow, and evolve. And it's more fun when you all do it together.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and it's like we would never have known. I mean, I guess they kind of knew back in ancient times with the idea of Maya, right? They had this sort of idea of illusion. They didn't understand computers. Like, it's so much easier for us to wrap our brains around this now within the last 20, 30 years, because there's something called a computer and simulations that we can actually use as reference points.
Yeah.
50 years ago,
Absolutely.
we would never have even been able to envision it. So it all really makes sense in so many ways, that it's almost holographic, and it's almost a fractal, that we're creating these things within the things that we're creating, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, in terms of, so this is a question that someone asked me, because, we were, my class, I was talking about, like, yeah, all of the information's out there. It's all exists in one way or another. So there's no such thing as time. It exists outside of time. How do you, and I feel like that's how you said, well, of course we can potentially know something that happens in the future. And I've personally had some pretty profound experiences in my life with precognition and, things happening, knowing before they happen. And so I know that it happens. But then, then there's that question of, well, we have free will and we have the option to make choices. So, my thought on that was that, there are multiple potentialities. And when things come true, it was something that had more potentiality of coming true. And I made those choices that took me down that particular stream of reality. Is that kind of how you see it?
Yeah. Past, present, and future is interesting. What I've found is that, Eckhart Tolle was right. There's only the now. There's only this minute.
Mm-hmm.
And we can bring the worries of the past into it, or the concerns of the future, or our baggage from the past as well. We can bring all that into the now, and we can live it, or we can choose not to. I tend to choose not to, because it's just more fun. It's just a high vibrational state. Yeah. To not worry about the future or the past, and just be. But I'm no expert, and still doing my best.
It is a learning experience.
So, yeah. For me, all of the decisions I've made in the past, I believe that they've branched out into other realities that I can explore if I choose to. As for my future, I think that's right? Yeah, exactly. Like the future piece, I like to think of it as we can surf our potentialities towards the highest vibration that we can. And the way that I do that is, and I'll give you an example in a moment, the way that I do that is that I get a sense of what is it that I want to accomplish, and the universe gets on board if you do something that serves the universe. And I want to create an amazing course for people. This is, you'll align with this. I want to create an amazing course. I'm going to teach an amazing course, and you see yourself teaching an amazing course, and then ideas come, because you're actually tuning into a timeline. You're tuning into a future vibrational state. And then as you make that your own self-fulfilling prophecy, you collapse all the other timelines into it. Like the you that never got the enrollments that you wanted doesn't exist anymore. Right. Because you're gearing all of your intuition, the power of your intent, all of it towards that one future vibrational state that becomes your self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, let me give you a couple of practical human examples. My partner and I, we move around. We've been on this amazing farm for the last few years, looking after cows and living on 180 acres. And, we just wanted to live in an open space. And a guy crossed my path, and I helped him, and he had to leave his farmhouse. And he said, "Can you come and look after my farm?" And all this sort of stuff. So what we do when we're looking for our next place to live, we sit and we tune in and we say, what do we want? We want open spaces. We want some fruit trees. We want, we've got to ask for good fruit on the trees, by the way. We forgot last time. We want to live near a forest. We want peace and quiet. We want some space to be ourselves. We want room for a vegetable garden. We want it. And we sit down and we do this piece of paper. And the last 2 times, we've been able to tick off everything that we asked for in the house that came our way. We're looking for our next place now, because we're going to leave the farm soon, and we want to move towards the ocean, and we want to live on the coast. Yeah. So at the moment, we've got like a butcher's paper on the fridge of all the pieces that we want. Like your vision board. One of those big sheets of paper. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, more or less. Yeah. So we just have it there, and when I get the milk out of the fridge or something, I'll touch the place for an art studio that I've written on there, or something for this or something for that, sea breeze, whatever it might be. And what I'm doing is I'm guiding all timelines towards that place. But you have to surrender space and time. You have to say, well, you can't give an address. Like it
Right.
can't be sort of
Too
24
specific.
Main Road,
Right.
Trinity Beach or something.
Right.
Just say, in an
Right.
area between here and here, um, tell us when it's ready. And then you let the universe sew the tapestry together that brings your thread to you.
Right. So that's the co-creation, right? You just open up and set
Yeah.
your intentions, and then you work with the universe to bring it into reality and align.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't say Tuesday next week.
Right. Right.
We don't say in the month of February. We don't say, things like that. We just say we're grateful that it's coming when it does.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because one of the things with, when working with your intuition, if you try too hard or focus too much or put too much of that focus on it, then you push it away, right? It creates that
Yeah.
static. So there does have to be that
Yeah.
receptivity, and I love that. I love that.
Mm.
So let me ask you then. So when you and your partner, get this house on the beach and you're in your next place, does that mean that there's no other realities, that there isn't a you that went to somewhere else, or is there still those other realities?
Great question. When I wrote the quantum consciousness book, and I based some stuff on an amazing case that I had, and that is that all of those other potentialities still exist. And if you ever need to go back to them and you need to understand something for learning out of that, they reinflate.
Okay.
The
All right.
analogy she gave me that day was that when you don't need them any longer, they deflate like air out of a balloon.
So it's almost like, this idea of the 0 point field, the non-local field, is this full of all these particles and waves of potentiality, and it's this potentiality field. And when we move forward and we sort of create our reality, all those other potentialities go back into the field, deflate into the field, but you could call them up and move into them and reinflate them. As that makes that, to me, I can wrap my brain around.
Yeah. Like you look at your computer and you've got like a directory of files, and you go into a certain folder and you click on a document that comes up.
Right.
I feel it's a little like that. I mean, all of the other aspects of learning are still out there, and we can tune into them if we want to, but you've got a choice on which document you open.
That's a great analogy too.
Yeah. So I'm going to open the document that's on the front of our fridge.
Exactly. That's the one you want.
Yeah, that Melina and I sat down and worked on together.
Right. It really is. It's really interesting how much it is a lot like information storage in our computers and our local hard drives versus the sort of cloud of collective hard drive, with like mind matrix of all of that stuff together.
And I feel that what stops us opening the document that we truly want, a lot of it is about our conditioning.
Right.
It's those early days, it's societal conditioning. And we've seen over the last few years the way that we've been sort of bathed in fear and that sort of stuff. Where it's like we're deliberately guided towards not knowing our magnificence and not knowing our intuition. And there are constructs in the world that prevent us from knowing who we really are. And, I don't want to do conspiracy theories. I just do observation and understanding as best I can. But there's lots of different agendas out there. And I've only believed in one agenda, and that's the one that I have, that I seek to serve humanity, move consciousness forward. And anything else is just sort of noise to me, so I don't really give it attention.
Yep.
And it tends not to worry me, because I choose that particular destination, and rather than look at stuff and say that's wrong, or I don't believe in that, or I just let it fall away.
Yeah, that's really smart.
Yeah, I think that's the way for all of us to go.
Yeah, I mean, because we're living in this world of duality, I feel like it's all around us. There's going to be, people who are pushing for this upshift, and still people who are still holding on to the downshift, and everybody in their different places. But yeah, really just all of us focusing on doing our part, right? Doing that little bit that we can in the world is key. So that makes me think of something else in terms of, when we're talking about manifesting all this stuff. And this is something I know people are going to come at me, Pete, about this being a physics book. And we've talked about this before too, right? That like people are like, who are you to talk about quantum physics? You're not a physicist and all this stuff. So I want to be sure I understand these principles. That's part of the reason why I'm are you familiar with Ervin Laszlo? Have you read any of his books?
No, but I know the name.
Yeah, he wrote a book that I read after I read yours, Science in the Akashic Field, and he actually got nominated for a Nobel Prize for this idea of a non-local field really holding all of this information. So I met with him on Monday, which was like really cool too. And
wow, that's cool.
yeah, he met with me.
Fantastic.
I reached out to him. I'm like, I'm doing a book on intuition and physics. Will you talk to me? And she's like, let's talk on Monday. And I was like, okay. So he's in Tuscany and he's like 90 years old. And it was really cool. So I asked him some of these things too, and he's all in on intuition. Like, and that was really my concern, because I'm like, I'm going to be quoting him a lot in the book too, because I need to have some sources and references. I want to make sure that I'm solid on, what I'm saying with physics, the physics behind it, and that I'm not interpreting anything the wrong way. And I wasn't sure. I was like, is he really, is he going to really go all in on the intuition part? Because he is a, physicist and was all in on intuition. He went so far as to say that, getting into our intuitive nature is going to save humanity. And it's what we all have to do. And, and so he was just like cheering this whole idea on. So that really helped, really like made me feel good to see that, real physicists, like someone who's admired in the community, the science community, having that kind of passion for it. So that was exciting.
Can I offer you something that might help?
Yeah.
I could write a book about men. I could write a book for men.
Mm-hmm.
You could write a book for women.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are a woman.
Right.
I am a man.
Right.
Okay. I could write a book on dad jokes because I'm a dad,
Right.
So a quantum physicist, a quantum guy once wrote to me, and he had some baggage because his wife was a past life therapist, and there was some politics, and anyway, so he got my book and he wrote it, and he says, what gives you the right to write about quantum physics when you've never studied quantum physics and all that sort of stuff? And I said to him, I'm part of the quantum field. I'm made up of subatomic particles, top to bottom, and I'm held together, quantumly entangled by my own spiritual consciousness. I am part of the quantum field. As a result, I've got every right to write about the quantum field.
I love that.
And same as you writing for women, me writing for men, whatever it might be, we're in it. We're part of the universe. Why should we not be able to write about the universe of which we are an incredible part?
Amen. I'm definitely going to use that. I'm just telling you that. I'm sure of it, because I'm just
go for it.
That's how people are. There's always going to be, someone out there be like, oh, what. But that's a really good response, and it's really authentic, because it is true. We write about what we know, and that's what you and I are both writing these, because these are the experience that we had. We're writers because we're reporting out these experiences that are very real, and we want other people to understand them. So that's 100% true. And for me, it's just all of this work, reading your book and reading books like Ervin Laszlo's, is really just getting that sort of perspective that allows it to all make sense. Like, we knew it was real because we experienced this, but we didn't know how it happened, right? We knew it happened, we didn't know how or the function, but now so much, pretty much everything of modern quantum physics is all explainable through contemporary, all the stuff that we called psychic, or the occult, right? All of that stuff it makes actual sense now, especially with entanglement and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you read The Holographic Universe, Michael Talbot?
I have, yes. And that was another one that I
that's a good one
really
too.
liked. Yep. And that explains like our inner wisdom, right? Like it's such an advanced concept that I think it's hard sometimes, unless people like quantum physics and are intrigued by it, it's hard to wrap your brain around how the holographic universe boils down to having that interconnection with all knowledge, and that part of you that knows everything, because it's all stored holographically. And I mean, it took me, I read it several times before I like fully digested the implications,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, it's like Rumi said. Rumi said, "You are the universe in ecstatic motion."
Mm, I love that.
Look within. Everything you need is within you. And Talbot was saying the same thing in that book. When you take the holographic universe, and you almost quoted him before, when you look at the universe holographically, the paranormal becomes normal. I actually feel that
Did he say
we're
that? Because
more,
that would be a great quote
yeah,
for my book.
yeah. He actually has that in there somewhere.
Michael Tell.
But
I'll look.
I
I can
don't,
push it.
I don't believe we're normal. Like, clients have come to me over the years and say, "I just want to know that I'm normal." I said, "Well, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're not normal. You're paranormal, or even super normal." And they say, "What?" And it starts a great conversation,
Yeah.
because there is no normal.
And I use the same thing in
Normal.
radical intuition with extraordinary, right? You're not ordinary, you're
Yeah,
extraordinary, right? It's that sort of same
yeah,
idea that we're all extraordinary. And that's how I started out radical intuition. It's like, yeah, you are extraordinary. It's not like you're special, you're different than everybody else, but we're actually all really extraordinary and unique and special in our own ways, and magnificent, as you like to say. So
yeah.
yeah, you're definitely speaking my language here. So I wanted to ask you too. I'm looking at my notes. I
Sure.
gave, by the way, I also gave your book to my daughter, who is turning 18, and she loves it. I had
Yeah.
to go into her
Oh,
room,
great.
straggle it out from her bed to bring it in here and get out the quotes. I'm like, I'm taking this back. I'm meeting with him today. So
Oh, great.
it's resonating with young people too, and that's what really gets me excited, is like seeing young people liking these ideas and eager to learn more about it. So I've liked the idea that when you talk about entanglement with an I, right, and how I assume that that's, this is a sort of a play on words with entanglement, and that only it's coming from within. And are you just talking about like with our other selves? Are you talking with other people? Maybe you could just talk a little bit about your idea of entanglement and how that ties in with intuition stuff.
Yeah. It took me ages for my publisher to realize it wasn't a topographical area now. But anyway, all these other selves, all these other aspects of our being, these other displays of our consciousness across time and space that are in other bodies, other dimensions, all of that. We are, entanglement is entangled with the universe, but we have a stronger source of entanglement, which is our multidimensional self.
Mm-hmm.
And within that multidimensional self are incredible resources that move across time and space. So for me, the concept of entanglement is that all of these are available within us. And that, I mean, out there and in there is the same. And I have these conversations with people. Do you go out? Do you go in? Well, what does it matter? I mean, you're just in the thick of it. You are the universe in ecstatic motion, whether you believe you have to go out or whether you believe you have to go in. I mean, just run with what works for you. But we're all part of this same tapestry, and we're all a thread in this tapestry that is the all there is. And I think that it's like the universe is this big rug that doesn't have any color, but it's already there. And consciousness is how we populate it with color and texture and all of the pieces that sing to us. So, and we are a thread, yeah, and we are a certain colored thread in that tapestry. And if our thread wasn't where it is, then the pattern wouldn't be the same,
Right.
Because the pattern's just beautiful. So when we pull on our thread, and if we give it a good tug, then that thread affects other threads, and that's where we get the ripple effect of our work. And for you, as a thread in that tapestry, your book is another piece of your thread.
Right.
And it makes your thread longer so that it touches more threads of other people. So we're all part of all of it.
Wow. Yeah, that, I'm gonna write that down too. It's a great analogy. So in terms of all of this, like creating this reality and creating our threads, and can we like tie this back to this? My brain is sort of exploding around this idea of the wave and the particle. I don't know if you talk about much about this, but we're talking about collapsing the wave, right? Through observation and through manifestation and all that stuff. So so when we're doing this, is it that we're collapsing the wave to create our own reality, our own personal colored string in this, or is this, and it goes back to that field of potentiality and we just collapse it into reality? Is that sort of, can you maybe talk about that a little bit? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. There's this incredible duality thing, that is it the wave or is it the particle? And Kim's a particle, Pete's a particle, but together we're helping serve humanity as a wave of consciousness. So it's like that old analogy, you see a wave at the beach. Now, are you looking at a wave or are you looking at the ocean?
Right.
I went to see the ocean today. Did you observe a wave? Well, yeah. And was it part of the ocean? Yeah. So was it a wave or was it the ocean? Well, gee, I guess it was both. And what about the drop? That's part of the wave. That's part of the ocean. And what were you looking at? Oh, I was looking at the Pacific. Were you? But all the oceans, there's only one ocean, really, isn't there? They all join up.
Right.
Because we're like 60% or 70% water or something on this planet. So we label stuff, but it's all part of the same thing.
Right.
So I believe that in this simulation that we come into, that, they talk about the collapse of the wave function, and I'm into that. But I think whether it's observation that collapses the wave function or whether it's our free will that collapses the wave function is the question that I have these days. And I know scientifically that, we need to see waves and particles, double slit experiment. We're still paying that one off.
Right.
I mean, when they did the double slit experiment, and it was fascinating to understand, the wave function. But, we observed it and it collapsed. Well, did you observe it? Or did you exercise your free will in a way that manifested into a reality that then became what you believe reality to be? Oh, no, it's about my observations. Well, is it? Or is it about your free will, your intuition, all of that sort of stuff?
Right.
Yeah. And maybe you're driving the matrix, and maybe that's what collapsed the wave function.
Right.
Now, not many quantum physicists are ready for that conversation.
Right. But see, that's the thing. That's when it gets into that gray area of consciousness, right? So physicists can't measure that. There's no instrument that's going to say whether it's observation or intention or free will or whatever it is, but it's all sort of tied into the same thing.
Yeah, it's an assumption that comes about through observation. And they observe something and then they make an assumption and they say, well, I observed it and it changed. So my observing must have been what changed it, but not what happened through their observing.
Right.
Through their observing, they exercise their free will because they decided to observe.
Right. You can't observe until you make the decision to observe. Right. I love that. That is really good food for thought. And that actually puts it in better perspective for me, because I kind of got lost on that. What is it just the observation? Is it just the watcher? But we live in a participatory universe, right? So it makes sense to me.
Yeah, but understand where they come from. They're scientists. They observe things.
That's what they do.
That's their frame of reference. That's their frame of reference.
That is right.
It's like you got a business going bust, and you sit at the board table and you say to the board, why did the business go bad? And the finance guy will say, we got the numbers wrong. And the HR guy will say, it was a personnel issue. And the CEO will say, I couldn't find good leaders. And, everyone comes at it from their own angles. So there's a flaw underpinning the double split experiment, because it was done by scientists, that they believe observation is the king of all things of reality. I'm not so sure.
Right. No, I think that's a great question. I wish I would have been able to ask that to Urban.
The beauty of your work is that, so maybe it's free will that we exercise before we observe, but what do we observe in the free will first? And that's our intuition. It's our intuition that reads the matrix. The intuition reads the matrix, allows us to exercise our free will, and that's what collapses the wave function. Do you like that?
I love that. That's probably what's going to go in the book. I'm just, I'm just going to tell you that
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah. Go for it.
Like
Go
you
for it.
just, you
But
just, you
see
just
how it all
blew
starts with
my mind.
intuition.
Yeah. It all comes back through intuition. And you just blew my mind, and it just clicked like that. It just clicked.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. It all informs the whole
yeah,
process. Oh, that's
yeah, yeah.
beautiful.
And
That's
you know
beautiful.
what's even more cool? That I never realized it myself until I just tried to explain it to you.
It just happened, just here in this energy
Yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Together.
Just bang. That just came through. You know.
Wow. Wow. That was a moment of insight. I just felt it when you were saying
Yeah,
it. It was just there, and it just really hit. It really hit. I don't even know how
yeah.
far in the recording is. I gotta come back to this spot. I wish I could put like a little pin in this pot so I can find this immediately. I'm gonna watch this when we get off again. So how this is gonna work, just as an aside. So I'm gonna go through this, and my show work with it with New World Library, and we pull something out, I'll send it to you. Anything that we put in print, I will send to you for your blessing before we do anything. So you'll get sign off for it,
Thanks,
and
Kim.
credit for
Thank
it, and
you.
all that
I
stuff.
appreciate that.
100%. I've already pulled a couple things out of your book that I'm just going to use, which I'm sure is fine.
Yeah, go for it.
But yeah,
Oh,
anything we do in here.
full permission for quotes. Absolutely. Don't worry about going to my publisher.
Okay, good. All right, good. We'll just
Because people have done that before, and they take to Llewellyn. Just between us, I know you're recording. I don't think Llewellyn's a great publisher.
yeah, I will.
So if you just write me an email, and I'll write you back, and I'll just say,
do everything for you.
Yeah, because people got lost there for like months, and then they've come to me and they've said, I can't get a reply from Llewellyn. Here's an email. Just quote it.
Yeah, well, don't worry. Yeah, and I will edit all of our personal chit chat from this out, so no one will see it. It's just between you and me.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. I'm at New World Library will probably send you like the editor that I work with, Georgia, will probably just reach out to you and just send you the final quote. And they'll what we did before is we just
Easy.
a little like thing you sign off, say it just like this, it's fine, and then that way we're good to go. Because and then we might use little bits and pieces of this for the promotion, just take little clips from our talk today that are not the private part, but the other stuff. Yeah, I think that this, I mean, I'm still reeling from that just revelation right now. So I think that was worth it just for this bit of the conversation, for sure. And so I I know I don't want to keep you too long. I want to be mindful of your time, but I had two other quick questions. Do you have a second? Do you have enough time?
Of course. No. My 7 a.m.s are usually pretty clear.
Okay.
And,
I didn't know,
Yeah. No. I'd love to keep talking. In fact, I've got something I want to tell you as well.
Oh, good. Well, good. Because I'm good.
I'll
I'm
do
good
that. Do that at the end. Yeah.
All right. Good. All right.
Yeah.
So we'll have some more chit chat at the end. The two topics that I'm going to be honest, just can't really wrap my brain around. And I was wondering if you had some perspective on it. The one is we're talking about accessing the field. So one of the things we do at Intuition Lab is, when we want to get aligned with our intuition, you do a meditation, you quiet your mind, you'll do some qigong, go for a walk, got to get into that sort of high vibe space. So I know through personal experience that to get clear intuition, you have to sort of be aligned in a high vibration place, right? So, and when you're sick or down or low, like you can't access those parts of the field. It doesn't connect. You just end up down here in this other like sort of self space, local space.
Yeah.
Now, how does the concepts of like vibration and frequency and amplitude, have you thought about, I want to be using the right words, because like when they say high vibration, are we talking about spring theory? Is that just a new age word that we use? Or is there something that relates to actual bandwidth frequency or amplitude? Or do you think about that at all when you use those words? Because I want to make sure I'm using those words right.
Yeah. I have a parallel approach that's similar.
All right.
So let me offer you. I don't believe we need to access the quantum field.
Okay.
I believe we simply need to remember. And when we remember that we're part of the field, then you don't really need access because you never lost it. And So I think you and I are saying the same thing, just with a different
Right. I
word.
like that word though, because it is the memory field. That's what the Akashic
Yeah.
field is, right? It's that memory field of all things, right?
Yeah. It's all there. It's like you're in the library. Just pick whatever book you want off the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about resonance,
Mm-hmm.
and I talk
that was
about
I'm just going to say real quick, that's exactly what Irvin Laszlo said. I asked him the same question and he said resonance too. Just wanted to put that in there.
yeah.
Continue.
Yeah.
I just that was
Oh, good. Okay. Good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
So when we move into resonance, we just move into a remembered state. When we're in a remembered state, what we need comes. And for me, everyone has a different idea about, magnitude and amplitude and, vibration, frequency, energy, the whole lot of it. I keep mine really simple. I believe everything has a vibration. Everything in the universe has a vibration, and it emits frequencies. It sends frequencies out. And those are the messages out into the quantum field about their state of being. And it might be a high or it might be a low. But everything is vibrating. And, that fits a bit with string theory, because they believe the whole universe is made up of a countless number of tiny vibrating strings. Some large, some small, depending on which string theory, and whether you're into M theory, which they accumulated the 5 different string theories with, and any of that.
Yeah, that's
so
it's like my brain, right?
yeah. We don't want to get too sciencey. Sciencey is the springboard here.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, as we move into consciousness, we should call it spring theory, not string theory.
I love that. Yeah, exactly.
You can only, but then you can only use it for 3 months a year. So we've got something vibrating, and then emits a frequency. And let's just say somebody's vibrating in fear, then they're going to emit a frequency of anger or anxiety, fight or flight, because that's the fear response. That's the fear vibration. You go your fight or flight response, basic human wiring. So we see that frequency. We don't see when I teach our guys, I don't see that as trauma. I don't see that as mental illness. I don't see that as difficulty. I see that as a request for resonance. Okay. So when I'm fearful, anxious, grief, whatever it might be, that's a request for resonance. You're sending a message out there in the universe to say that the request. And what the quantum facilitators do that I train, we answer the requests for resonance.
That is so sweet. Like that almost like brought a tear to my eye. I think that is so true.
Yeah. And the process of moving them back into resonance we call transcendence.
So resonance is our unified, connected state, and
yeah,
when we're out of that state and we're in other states,
beyond our conditioning, beyond the impacts of society, beyond our health issues, when you go out of body, Kim, you find resonance. Everyone that's ever had a near-death experience simply moved into resonance.
All right. Well, let me ask you something, because I had a question about that, because I've had that happen to me a couple times in my life. So when you're in that out-of-body state, I never had a near-death experience, just kind of been spontaneous, like I just wake up in the middle of the night, like in some part of my room, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
When we're in this out-of-body state, we still feel like we're in space and time somehow, or how does that fit in with the sort of timeless, spaceless dimension? I'm curious.
Well, for me, you haven't left your body. You're in a quantum field that is expanded beyond your body. So you're still anchored in time and space, but you're more than Kim. You're sort of Kim plus.
Kim plus, I love it.
Yeah. So Kim is just a piece of who you are. What really changed for me, Kim, was when I realized that Pete was a disguise for a greater consciousness. So Pete's just a piece of me. But Pete's useful because Pete gets stuff done, and Pete can mow the lawn, and he can write a book, and he can go to the shops and come home with groceries. So, Pete's useful, but Pete is the expression that I have to get things done while I'm on this planet in human form at this time and space. So I've entered time and space in order to make a difference to humanity, but it's not who I am.
It's not who I am. Love it. Sorry, I'm just taking some notes. Some
Yeah,
points,
yeah. Please. No, I'm
points I want
pausing.
to
I'm
remember.
pausing so you can.
Okay,
I'm
good.
pausing so you can.
I know I can go back and see all this stuff, but I want to remember what to look for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that, and that's going to be really helpful. I might ping you when I'm actually writing the chapter on interdimensionality.
Yeah,
It's towards the end. I'm saving the juicy stuff,
yeah,
the deep stuff for the people who are really going down the rabbit hole with this. And I'm going to talk about
yeah.
all the stuff we just talked about. So that's a really great perspective. Yeah, and I want to talk about things like out of body experiences, near death experiences, past lives, and in terms of past lives, I saw you're doing a neat event on past lives coming up. So do you think that with all of these things, do you think there is such a thing as past lives, or are they all just sort of parallel lives, right? Because there's no
Look,
such thing as past, right?
it's it's a learning construct, and people now are starting to wake up. Wow, maybe I've had another time and another body and all that. And because their frame of reference is linear time, we have to communicate it in that way to them. You know, you get the people that say maybe I was Cleopatra or Alexander the Great and all that sort of stuff, and it's just something that happens. But my experience is that all of those, and this is a great way to look at being outside of time and space, because when you do past life work and you go back to the Colosseum, and the guy's a gladiator or whoever he might be, and he might be, a man that's physically disabled in this life. And he's recalling a life as a gladiator. And it might be a balancing thing. It might be, well, you had a strong body then, you got a weak body now, you can learn both angles. But when he's on the floor of the Colosseum getting run through with a big spear, he's telling me like he's there.
Yeah.
There's a guy standing over me.
Right.
He's got the spear raised. He's plunging it into my chest. I can feel the life go out of me. They're always in the present.
Yep.
And this is what people don't really get about past life work. And they're out there a dime a dozen past life guys now. But, for me, it's not about going to a psychic and having them read your past lives. It's about get in there yourself and have a crack at it. But there's something about past lives are always in the present when you're there. So what does that actually mean?
Right.
Okay. Well, it's like they're still unfolding. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, I've moved outside of time and space to visit that experience. So time and space must be malleable. Oh, so time and space must be a construct. So why is that a construct? Well, that's so I can be this person now, but I moved outside of that and I'm that person then. So maybe time and space doesn't really exist. And you can start this whole conversation about everything's happening at once. So then I say to people, and past lives is, we're doing so much more than past lives these days, of course, with the multidimensional stuff.
Right.
But I'll say to them, what energy do you want to offer to that other self outside time and space? Well, if I'm here and he's there, then clearly death is a myth. So why don't you let him know that before he passes, that he has nothing to fear?
Wow.
Okay. So if he's releasing the fear of somebody from 2,000 years ago, that's contributing to the collective consciousness of humanity.
Wow. Wow. I love
We're
that.
cleaning up the collective. I think we're cleaning up the collective in two ways. I think a lot of people are now doing the intergenerational stuff to set their ancestors free.
Yep. Ancestral healing. Yep.
Yep. And I think that people are resolving large patterns out of the lineage of their soul, and that's just multiple dimensional healing across time and space. But someone will say, I'm clearing a pattern out of my past lives. And what I hear is that, I've got a pattern that's currently running across 20 of my lives, and I'm setting them all free in the here and now to clean up the collective consciousness of humanity.
I love that.
So if you clean up another lifetime, you clean up all the alternate realities within that lifetime as well.
Right. All those different branches, right?
Yeah.
So this is fascinating to me, because in Intuition Lab for our year 2 students, our advanced students, we do a past life mastermind, and I've been doing this now for, this is probably the 4th year, and I'm actually going to write about this in the book because it's just so extraordinary. And we're in the middle of doing this year's right now. And what has ended up happening, so how this works is we usually have our advanced groups, usually about 10 people we'll have. and we'll do a mastermind where everyone like touches into a past life situation for someone else. Like I want to touch into like something that Megan has experienced. And then so the idea was sort of to get validation and see, is there any collective experience that people start to sort of aggregate. And it happened, this developed because I had students do that for me as an exercise. And, in the first year, just, okay, here's one, just tell me something about one of my past lives. And it was just for fun, and no one could ever believe they could do it. They thought I was totally nuts, but I'm like, I taught them the tricks. I'm just relaxed, just use your intuition, trust what flows, blah, blah, the same kind of thing you're talking to. Well, what started happening was year after year, people started telling me the same things. Right? I would get people talking about a red necklace. People would talk about the same locations, and like one was in Egypt and one was like in England, and it was if the first year I thought, wow, this was crazy, right? And then the next year it happened again, and it was just like, and it was unbelievable, right? So I said, okay,
I love it.
Right. So we'll start doing it with groups,
Yeah.
and we'll start doing it. And we get these validations that there's something real happening, whether everyone is connecting with just the same energy that's out there. And that's why I was intrigued to see if this is, because people are like, oh, when they're in there, people get into these past life scenarios and they're crying and they are like overwhelmed. It's always in the first person, like always, like people are there in this place. And I had to actually put a disclaimer out, because a lot of the times it does go back to a painful place, right? Because I think the things that we carry with us in this life, are things that we're still attached to energetically. Sometimes they're painful, or sometimes they're intense, or those are things that leave an impression. But the fact that these people are the same things you said, they're in there and having this real lived experience. I love this idea that it is still happening, and that when we do it, maybe, I add in a dimension of sending healing to those situations when they do these, right? And we have like a sort of wrap it up.
Yeah, that's it.
Sending healing. Yeah, you've inspired me.
And when I've done some of those group things, and I've got to do this with this event that I'm doing. This event's a classic. I've just come back on the leadership group at the Newton Institute after a couple of years break, when I was just advising and I was a bit burnt out. Now I'm back. And this guy who's asked me to come and do this thing with him, he's one of these TikTok guys. I don't know anything about TikTok, but he's got like 1 million followers or something.
Nice.
And he's been talking about the life between lives work and all of that. And that was the place that I first discovered Now Time. And I'm actually going to take these people on an experience. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set them up so that they only have a positive experience, and that the full intention under which we undertake the exercise is to raise the vibration of both parties, that other self and ourself. What I've found by doing that and setting that up as a protocol before they embark is they don't go to the bad stuff.
Don't. That's the key, right? Is getting that vibrational, like high alignment. Yeah. And
and you set an intention before embarking. Yeah, that's high vibrational.
I like that. And we do that we do meditation. I have a whole, we have a whole ritual where people have to go into the space and clear their energy and stuff. But I think you're right, setting that a very clear intention to touch into a high vibration point of that life. So we've also, part of it though is I think we have been looking at it as sort of a growth tool to learn about ourselves and to learn about our pain points, right? So that's
if you're in an area of skill, it can be, and you've got somebody supporting you, and it's not a group of like, I might have 100, I don't know. Right. So you've got the scale to be able to transcend what comes up as you bring them back into resonance.
Right.
So there's an opportunity there. When I do big numbers, I have to be very firm in those protocols so that everybody stays in that space and we can shepherd a larger group.
Right. That's really important. I think about that too when I do stuff. Like I gotta play in the color inside the lines, because you don't know. Does something gets freaked out.
I don't know how this guy's pulling people out of his TikTok support group. I mean, it could be anyone coming from anywhere with anything going on in their energy field. So, yeah, so I just need to tread warily with them. Different for you with your group, because you've got a group that are there to, and if they
Yes.
do strike something like that, that gives them a chance to learn how to manage it for other people that they might do it for.
Yes. Yes. And look at that, the
Yeah,
transformational experience that's part of it, that's meaningful and not something that's scary
yeah,
or freak them out or anything like that.
yeah,
Well, you're have to let me know how
yeah,
that goes.
absolutely.
I'm curious. I've never
Yeah.
done anything on TikTok either. So yeah, look at you. You're like
Well, we're,
out in a new world.
we're doing it on Zoom. We're
Oh,
doing it
he's
on
gonna
Zoom,
just
which
put it
is
out there.
so. But he's putting it out there to his people on TikTok. So I don't know. I don't know how he's going for recruitment, but I said to him, he wanted me to. He's been chasing me for months to do something with him. And I wasn't quite sure
Mhm.
because I wasn't quite sure about him, and I was just feeling into it. And then I
Mhm.
met him, and it felt okay. Um, and I just said to him, I said to him, I'll only do this for you if you donate $500 to the Michael Newton Institute. And he said, okay.
Nice. That's awesome. I
so
love that.
so that worked well.
That's smart. That was clever, and
Yeah,
it's a win-win then, right?
yeah,
So that's great.
yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, well then
Yeah,
my one last question is probably gonna be an easy one. So this is just
okay,
something that it's sacred geometry. Okay, so I don't know if you ever think much
okay.
about sacred geometry, but I was reading some stuff that Greg Braden wrote about the flower of life being the building block of the matrix, and it kind of resonated with me. It seemed kind of cool. Do you think about that at all?
So a great question. I haven't gone deeply into sacred geometry, and I'm just feeling into whether that's should be an area of exploration for me or whether it's something that I've been doing unconsciously. I do believe that some shapes have a high vibrational state than others.
Mhm.
Um, I'm often drawn to the infinity symbol, for example.
Mm.
Um, and I observe the spiral
Mm. Right, right in the
as
fractal.
spiral universes, a pine cone from the top, ancient healing symbols through Reiki or various first people around the world. Um, but I don't know a lot about it, I must admit.
Okay, well then we're on the same page. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing something. I kind of think, I'm
No.
kind of going to reference it, I think, in the book. It's because I think it's fascinating, like you said, with the pine cones, because you look at nature and you think nature is just this organic thing that just is like flows and stuff. And then you look closer and everything's patterns and fractals and spirals and the golden mean. And it's like, wow, it actually kind
Yeah,
of does
yeah,
seem
yeah,
like it might be a simulation because everything really is
yeah, yeah.
pattern oriented,
There's whole,
right?
there's a whole something to that Fibonacci sequence. There really is.
There is.
So,
And we're
um,
intuitively with that too. That was the thing, because I'm an artist, and that was the first thing they taught us in art school was that Fibonacci
okay,
golden
okay,
spiral. And because that's how, when you do a
yeah.
painting, that's how the eye perceives beauty, right? So
Oh
it's also very
wow,
ephemeral that, yeah, that's our, when you look at a painting and you think something's beautiful, you can look at the composition and then you can put a Fibonacci spiral over just about every painting in history, that even faces, the way faces are, that's our association with beauty. So isn't that a neat sort of tie-in to mathematics?
that is fascinating. That is fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's
Yeah,
kind of cool. So yeah, so that's
yeah,
my little
yeah.
that's how I'm gonna kind of wrap that in just in a little way then, and I think that's good enough. But I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss
Okay,
any big points. But yeah,
okay,
so this is so thank you. So thank you for all of that. I'm gonna have to go back and like
yeah,
read this, rewatch this with a fine tooth comb.
yeah. It was quite funny. I went back to your first email this morning and just looked at the scope of our chat, and you said 20 to 45 minutes. I said, "There's no way in the world Kim and I are going to chat for just 20 to 45
Yeah,
minutes.
I was
No way in
thinking
the
that
world."
too. But I'll take what I can get. If I can only get you for 20
Yeah,
minutes, I'll
yeah.
take 20 minutes. But yeah, I don't
Oh
give
no,
a
no, no.
shoot.
Always happy for a conversation with you. Um, now let me tell you something.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got a I've got a book coming out in July.
Ooh, you have
And
another one out in July already.
yeah,
Tell
yeah,
me all about it.
yeah. It's with the. I'm just going through final copywriting now, and it's a novel.
What's it about?
It's called The Transcendence of Celeste Kelly,
Oh, cool.
and she is a quantum physicist who wants to find the hidden dimensions articulated in M theory and the many worlds interpretation. And she also wants to bring in Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So she's doing a PhD and she's trying to map three of the great theories out of quantum physics together and find the common ground between them.
Wow.
Now, as a
So is this
result,
going to be
she
like her
embarks on
personal
this
journey?
journey.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But there's this other complications. She lost both her parents. Her father through mysterious circumstances. She finds out he was working on free energy,
Love it.
and she's starts to explore, well, I've got to look somewhere else for this data. And she meets this past life guy. She goes on this big journey. She connects with this other past life that she had. Then she realizes this whole multidimensional thing's happening. And then she meets this off-world being that wants to support her in the journey. And then she brings quantum physics and spirituality into a healing method that changes the lives of thousands of people.
I love this. I love where this is going.
Anyway, that's it's too much of a spoiler alert already. But
I feel like this is like
what
a
I'm what
whole
I'm
journey that like people can see how this all plays out, right? All the
yeah,
things that you teach and talk about, making it personal,
yeah.
right? And having that be a person's story. I love it. I love it. That's so cool.
So I found a publisher, and I'm doing hybrid publishing this time and working more collaboratively because I'd had
Yeah.
enough of Llewellyn, and they don't do fiction anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's been very challenged through some of this, and she doesn't quite know what to make of me. But that's okay. She's getting the job done.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is I'm looking for authors of other books
Mhm.
to do an endorsement for me
Oh, heck
from
yeah.
an early copy, which will only be a soft copy. But I'd love to send you one probably around April or May. It's not a big book; it's only about 250 pages.
Yeah.
But would love a comment that I could do as an endorsement, and then we put, Kim Chestney, author of Radical Intuition and the Illumination Code, or something like that,
Oh, I'm
and
in.
that gets, yeah,
I'm in. I'm
yeah,
in. I
okay,
can't wait to read it. I can't. I want to read it, and I will
yeah,
be happy to give you an endorsement. One for sure.
okay.
Yeah.
And they're going to
Definitely.
print some in the books or do reviews, or I'll put them on a website, or I'm not quite. It's up to the publisher how she wants to use them. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking for people who, like, she's saying that authors of other books
Mhm.
are usually great endorsements. And, there's the whole, I mean, not just an author, of course, there's the whole intuition lab and everything, and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff as well. So
It's a
yeah,
great fit.
okay, that'd be
I think
great.
it's a great fit. I'm probably gonna return the favor when my kind time comes for you.
Yeah,
Wink, wink.
yeah, yeah. Well, we've got to look after each other.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's how you do it,
Absolutely.
you like that's how all ships rise together. So yeah, I'd be
Yeah,
happy to do
that's
that.
exactly right.
So well,
Okay.
congratulations. That's a big deal, shifting into like fiction too, and shifting gears. But I think it's a great way to tie it
Oh,
together.
yeah,
Hard.
it's been a struggle. Yeah. No, you're right on it. It's been a struggle. It's been the ideas came through quick. To tell you the journey of nonfiction to fiction, I actually wrote the manuscript in about 10 weeks,
Oh wow, that's
and I
great.
finished it last May, and it's taken me like 8 months to get through the
And it's
8 rounds of edits,
mhm,
changing of this, changing of it, having to bolster the plot in this spot
mhm.
and having to change the plot in this spot and all that with the feedback from this editor. So it's fascinating. Like when you write a nonfiction book, I mean, it's just there.
Yeah, it's just information. Yeah, I've tried to write
Yeah,
fiction. I've my
yeah,
degree in
and
writing, and fiction's hard. I think it's harder. I think it's way harder.
yeah, yeah. Well, having done it both ways now, yeah, I agree.
Well, kudos to you for venturing out into new
Yeah,
territory. I think it's a great idea. I really
Yeah,
do.
thank you.
It gives a personal, just because a lot of the stuff we talk about is so ephemeral, and until someone actually sees how the experience plays out, is, I think having that personal sort of journey would be really a beautiful experience to complement your other book too, right? This is what it's like applied and
Yeah,
know, and a story.
yeah. And it gets and you get a little more license.
Yeah.
Like she
Yes.
spends time with these interdimensional beings, and people can say, "Oh, that's good fiction," but it might resonate for other people.
Yeah.
So no one says, "Oh, well, that's bullshit," because it's fiction.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
brilliant. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. Well,
yeah. Thank you.
whenever it's ready, I'm send it on over. I'm looking for a new book to read. I would just finish my book. I'm like, I need
Okay,
a new book to read. So
okay.
I would love to take some time and read it. And yeah, if there's anything else anything else that you think I should look into, if anything pops into your head, or let me know.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's flowing really well. The book's like, I feel like it's all just
Good.
ready to come out. I just have to make the time to sit down and there's
There's
pain points. So I appreciate you clearing them up for me.
there's one more thing. Oh, my pleasure. I love this conversation. More stuff comes through for me as well. But there's something when I went back and I wrote, and when I read your first email this morning, something else popped in from some other work that I'm doing and fits a little with the new book as well.
Mhm.
In that I think some people's ability to read the quantum field comes from their background as a multidimensional being.
Oh,
And people talk a lot about star seeds and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure if you want to turn that rock over, but there's something about people naturally live in a collective consciousness more connected to the universe around them when they're in a lighter state in another type of body. And they bring some of those skills into human form as they incarnate in this plane of existence, but they still retain some of that ability to read energy. I'm seeing it a lot in people who are empath, for example, been absorbing the energy of other people since before they were born. I've got a whole protocol around helping the empaths now. The other thing is about people with off-world leanings, how they have a hypersensitivity to energy, and that does result in a power of intuition and connection into the quantum field that surpasses other humans. So
mm.
there's a whole interdimensional piece on that is becoming more and more present in my daily work and in the courses I'm running. Now, I ran a quantum consciousness course last weekend and everyone went multi
Wow.
because I've broken down some of the human protocols in the method we're using, and everyone went interdimensional or off-world.
That is so
Not everyone, but
fascinating.
most of them.
Most people, yeah, I'm so fascinated by this idea.
Yeah.
And so when you say that
Yeah. So it's
about,
an emerging trend.
I want to ask you about that, like, idea of international being, interdimensional being. So does that mean that some people aren't interdimensional then? Or are we
I think
not
everybody
all
is.
interdimensional? Yeah, or just some people that aren't aware?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
curious how.
At the risk of quoting a stat, I've done maybe 800 or 900 LBLs over the years, the life between life stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since I started to do that nearly 20 years ago, I've always asked, have you ever had life on another planet? And I've only ever had two people tell me that they hadn't. And I suspect that those two people weren't ready to see that they had.
Right.
And it would have been too disruptive for them to realize that they actually had existed in a different form or in a different dimension. LBL is a different dimension anyway, so I don't know what the fuss is. But
Right.
there's, so I think, yeah, I think some people have got a big history elsewhere or a small history elsewhere or a sample elsewhere. But none of us are from here anyway.
Right.
But in terms of experience in other planets and other dimensions, I think we've all had a taste of that. I really do. And I think that with this shift in consciousness now, because we really need to build connection to energy, for us to shift the consciousness of humanity, we need people who actually work in the consciousness, who feel and sense and experience the quantum field, realize what we're doing to the quantum field and change the way that we're doing it, and let all the other stuff on this planet fall away and set us free. So for me, more and more of these people are coming through. Now, what we've noticed at the Newton Institute over the years, and we're talking 70,000 cases now that have been done since Michael Newton did his original 7,000. What we're finding is a far greater predominance of people who've had love on other planets.
Wow. So
okay?
that's
people
a trend.
Yeah. There's a trend that there's more multi-dimensional aspects to our clients now than there were, say, 15 years ago when I was first heavily into this work.
Wow, that's interesting.
The other trend that we're seeing is that 15 years ago, people were coming and they were asking, what's my purpose in this lifetime? What am I here to learn? Now people are saying, I'm here to be something greater than me. I'm here to be part of a shift in consciousness. And it's gone from me to we in the space of the last 15 years in a big way.
I love that. Not so much about what I need to learn, but how I can give back and what we can achieve together. That's because I've noticed that even with the intuition. What's that?
Yeah.
I've noticed with the intuition.
So I'm seeing that, and
I think we're having I'm
not surprised.
Technical.
No, it's a global trend, and I think it's going to show up in lots of our different work. And I mean, you and I are working in parallel as well, anyway. But so these trends are going across all manner of these works. Everyone's, and look, people on Facebook will say, I think I'm an Arcturian, or maybe I'm from the Pleiades and all that. So there'll be all the banter around that. Same as we had, 20 years ago with someone saying, I think I was the Red Baron in a previous life. I actually had someone tell me that once.
Same thing, right? Yeah. Imagination.
I said, yeah. So, but people are speculating and they're getting into it and all of that. And there's going to be some of that. But I'm seeing very real, visceral, personal experiences that echo these themes that I'm suggesting.
So I'm gonna see where my intuition takes me on this as I write that chapter. But is it okay if I reach back out to you and probably a couple months till I get to that point? If I have any questions about that or have any crazy ideas pop into my head, I want to run by you.
Yeah.
Great.
No, please, because people need to know about this stuff. Because it gets them thinking, it gets them exploring, and that's how we change humanity: is people changing their mindsets, letting go of the old conditioning and starting to explore.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought up the idea of these trends at the end, because I think that that's a point to make in the book too, that there is a shift that we're actually witnessing it, like statistically, even, through all these things that's happening that goes in parallel with this shift towards the quantum dimension, this shift towards our
intuition.
Right. So it's all sort of unraveling together.
It's time for us to take our place in the universe. And it's for us to realize that, this little blue ball that we all live on, it's the whole world. Well, no, it's not. It's a tiny speck in the scheme of the universe and everything else that's out there. And wake up, people. You go outside and look up. Don't look at your television overnight. Go outside and look up into the stars and just stand there in awe and wonder about how big this place really is. And, let's just start to think more universal than just global, because global's nothing in comparison.
Yeah, for sure. Amen.